Okay, welcome to our fourth and last class for the broadcast. The class next week will not be recorded at all. This week's class is with Mrs. Bracha Chain, who is a veteran college teacher, and we are really honored that she came here today to speak to us about Chafifa and Tevillah.
Good evening, everyone. I apologize for being late. It really wasn't in my control. Trying to figure out the hashgacha pratis of it, and I still have not been able to, but that's fine. I just want to commend the people who organized this session and all of you who came out and who might be listening in on taking the effort and the time and everything to come to this series of classes. We know how much, going back many, many years, how the Rebbe encouraged us in the Inyan of Taras Mishpacha that there should be a review series for Jewish women, from women, our own Anash, as well, of course, to try to get other people to keep Taras Mishpacha, but at least once a year. It's so important to review the Dinim. So by coming together, and tonight we are fulfilling the haras from the Rebbe, and hopefully everybody will go home. I hope you don't learn something too new, but at least stronger, more enthusiastic, and able to share with other people possibly, and so on. Now the Rebbe said, you're going to have to indulge me because the Rebbe said that everything we do should be connected to Inyanei Mashiach, to waiting for Mashiach. As we were coming here and we were stuck by the Holland Tunnel and it was getting later and later, I had a fleeting thought, maybe we'll just skip that part and go straight into the halachas. And then I had a stronger thought, no way. Because if the Rebbe said that that's the way that we are today, we have to connect everything, and that's what's going to bring Mashiach, then we're not skipping that. We're not going around that. That's going to be, I'm going to make it a little shorter, but that's going to be our source of bracha for that this class tonight should be successful, and it should be Tvarim hayatzim min halev, nichnasim al halev. It should be well received. I should be able to say the things properly so that they should be understood, and so on and so forth. So it's so easy, though, to connect what we're doing tonight, especially this class, to Inyanei Geula Mashiach. Because what is the relationship of Hashem and Bnei Yisrael? Hashem is the husband, Bnei Yisrael are the wife. We have been in Galus for 2,000 years, right? What is Galus? A state of Nida. We, the wife, have been Nida for 2,000 years. When Hashem gave us the Torah, it says that was we were married to Hashem, but really it wasn't the full marriage. It was a rusin, kiddushin, like we do with the ring under the chuppah. But there has not yet been that ultimate inyan of intimacy, of marriage, which will come with the coming of Mashiach. So now, what stage are we at? This is my own little thing. I didn't see it specifically in the Rebbe Sicha, but Nida is Galus, right? The Shiva Nikiyim, when we're doing the B'dikas and so on and so forth, is Avodas HaBeirurim. But the Rebbe said that's over. So where are we now? The Rebbe said we're getting ready to greet Mashiach. We're trying to live in a Geula mindset. We're preparing ourselves for the reunion of Bnei Yisrael with Hashem, the reunion of the wife doing her preparations for Mikveh. That's the lesson we're doing today, preparing for Mikveh so that we can be reunited happily with our husbands, and Emir Hashem, speedily, the Hashem and Bnei Yisrael will be reunited with the coming of Mashiach. Amen. So that's one thought. And the other little thought I want to say is the Rebbe said, how are we hastening Mashiach? We're learning Inyanei Geula Mashiach, so we just expressed a thought on that idea. But what was the second thing? Doing mitzvahs behiddur. Now, what does doing mitzvahs behiddur exactly mean? We know in relation to Taras Mishpacha, how many times did the Rebbe give the answer, diuk in Taras Mishpacha? What does diuk mean? Diuk means to do it precisely, with every detail, meticulously, not just in a general way, but every little detail has to be exact. And this answer was given to many people who wrote in with different problems. We know shalom bayis problems, having children, miscarriages, healthy children, parnasa, all kinds of things. And the Rebbe gave the answer, diuk in taras mishpacha, to people who were keeping taras mishpacha seriously. And many times, sometimes they found something that they were doing really wrong, and it was corrected, and their problem went away. But sometimes, or many times, they were doing things that were, while they weren't correct, they weren't grossly wrong. They were little things that they didn't know, that little details, especially with the harchakas and things like that. And many times they wrote and asked again. They said they didn't find anything they're doing wrong. And the Rebbe answered again, diuk. And again, it went back and forth till finally they were able to find that little thing they weren't doing correctly, and then their problem went away. So that's diuk in taras mishpacha, but that's the answer. That's what we've been doing for years and years and years, right? We know that's the way we have to deal with taras mishpacha. So what's hiddur then? What are we adding with hiddur that we haven't been doing till now if we've been consciously trying to have diuk in taras mishpacha? So again, this is my own little interpretation, but to me, what does hiddur mean? Hiddur means to beautify, to do something in a beautiful way. That means to embrace it, to do it with simcha, and that's the key here, to do it joyously, to want to do your best. You know how we read all those stories about the poor man who wanted to have a beautiful esrog, and he saved his money, all the different stories, because he was so enthusiastic, he so wanted that beautiful esrog. And that's what hiddur mitzvah could mean with the mitzvah of taras mishpacha. We know a Shabbos, if you want to beautify your Shabbos table, but with taras mishpacha, which is one of the chukim, which we don't understand, sometimes it's not so simple, sometimes it's inconvenient, sometimes it's really challenging, but when we embrace it, we do it with a love for Hashem, and we do it with our best, with our utmost, and the main thing is we do it with simcha. Even when there are challenges, we don't do it as a martyr, but we do it with behiddur, simcha. And this is a geula mindset. This is what we're getting ready, Amir Tashem, that will come so easily to us after Mashiach comes, but now we work to incorporate this mindset as we come to this mitzvah. So that leads to getting into the mitzvah itself. And I want to bring up one more point that has to do with the timing of the mitzvah. I believe, I don't know how many of you were here when Mrs. Mirazov was doing her classes, but she did tell me that she mentioned the point, of course, and everyone knows it, that it is a mitzvah to go to the mikveh on time. On time meaning the day that it comes out, 7 full days after your hefsek Tara, and she said she did emphasize this point. You do the hefsek Tara usually, let's say today's Wednesday, you did it Wednesday afternoon before Shkia. 7 full days later, today, if I did my hefsek Tara before Shkia, what number of the 7 days is today? 0, right? Not 1, 0. So tonight, being already Thursday is day 1, but so Wednesday, which means Thursday, Friday, Shabbos, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night, the following week, I go to mikveh. After 7 complete days, v'safra la shivas yomim, you have to count 7 days, meaning there have to be 7 full days. It's not really determined by the day of the week. It's determined by 7 days, meaning that if you would, the thing with crossing the international date line, going to Australia or Japan, if you lose a day, if you gain a day, then you wouldn't go by the days of the week. You would count the 7 days. Okay, so we know that that's when we're supposed to go to the mikveh, on the 8th night, after 7 complete days. It's a tremendous mitzvah to go on that night and not postpone it for any reason, except in extreme circumstances, if someone is really sick, not a headache or not a little cold, but really, really sick, of course, chas v'shalom, Or if there are any extremely serious circumstances, it can be discussed with the Rav. Otherwise, we need to go to the mikveh on that day, and we need to do it b'simcha. Now you're going to ask me, of course I want to go to the mikveh that day. I've been separated from my husband for a minimum of 12 days, so why would I want to postpone it? Hoping that everyone sitting in this room and listening, and every Jewish woman loves her husband and wants to be reunited with him. Chas v'shalom, if it's not that way, then there are problems that have to be dealt with. But that should be a normal Jewish marriage. So why would I think that maybe it's an issue? Why do we have to talk about going to the mikveh on time? Because we know life is not always simple. And there's sometimes when you have to go to the mikveh, it's the best day that could happen. Everything is easy that day, and it just works out. Whatever it is, it's great. It's easy. I'm going to do my preparations. It's not a problem with the kids. Everything is fine. And then there are other times when just the day that I have to go to the mikveh, it couldn't be a harder day. It's so challenging. Whether it's, the famous thing with your mother-in-law sitting in your living room, or the kids are, the kids have been sick and you're so bogged down, or at work, either you or your husband, there's so much going on. If you're shluchim, there's this big dinner tonight, or whatever it is. There's so many things going on. It's not that I don't want to go to the mikveh, but it's just, I don't think I can handle it. We'll just have to put it off for today or tomorrow. So the Torah says, the Eibishter says, no kinderlach, we don't put it off. There is nothing more important in your life between husband and wife than when it's time to go to the mikveh, you have to go. This is the foundation of the Jewish home, of the love between husband and wife. It's not non-negotiable. So we don't have to worry about all these other things. This is because when this is right, when that relationship between husband and wife is right and of prime importance, everything else falls into place. So, but how am I going to do it? I mean, it's like, okay, so we have to know that everything is hashgacha pratis. Remember, I came in, I said, I don't know what, with coming late, I don't know what the hashgacha pratis is. But with this, everything is hashgacha pratis. So you're doing the hefsek tara on a certain day is not by chance. 1 month, it may be 5 days, your period lasts 1 month, it's 6 days. Why it came out Friday night, or why it came out Wednesday night, or Tuesday night, is not by accident. It's because Hashem made it happen that way. Which means that night that you're going to the mikveh, whether it's an easy day or a hard day, is also hashgacha pratis. And if it's an easy day, you thank Hashem. If it's a harder day, a challenging day, then we have to know that Hashem gave us the challenge, and Hashem does not give a challenge that a person cannot fulfill. He also empowers us to fulfill that challenge. And there are many stories, we don't have time to go into them, I don't know if Mrs. Mrazov mentioned any, about the ingenuity of Jewish women in finding ways to go to the mikveh on the night they have to go under all these circumstances, whether it's, as I said, a shliach after a dinner, a mother after marrying off her daughter, teenage children around who always want to know where you're going and so on and so forth. I mean, I was busy with Neshei Chabad and Taras HaMishpacha, so I was always going to meetings, you understand. No telephone number. We didn't have cell phones in those days. So, I was just away. But it's amazing, unbelievable, the stories that women can come up with to make it work. And it works. And you know something? I mean, I've seen this from my own life, that nobody wants to have challenges, and nobody wants the challenging days. And the challenges should only be easy challenges, not those real ones that sometimes the Eibishter likes to throw our way. But even those challenges, you get stressed. Some of us some of us are very easygoing, and we just roll with the punches, as they say. And some of us, these challenges get us a little stressed up. But when you know that you can do it, and then you go ahead and figure it out and you do it, what happens is that after the challenge, you feel not just relieved, you feel like you're on a high because you did it, and you're so excited that you were able to do it. And that adds an enthusiasm to post-mikveh, meaning your relationship with your husband, because you're feeling so good about yourself. Hashem had confidence in you. You did it. And now your self-esteem, hey, I did it. So it's a great, great feeling. But we should know, whatever it is, it's hashgacha pratis, and we take it that way. And of course, it says that the Arizal says that there are certain high neshamas that Hashem wants to send down to this world. Who does he give them to? Women who are makbid, who are careful to go to the mikveh on the right night. Women who are meiser nefesh to go to the mikveh on the right night. And there are many stories about that, which we won't go into right now, although stories always beautify everything. And it's not just about the neshamas coming down, it's also about brachas from the Eibishter, that there are many people who were zeicha to very special brachas in health and different things because they were makbid, they were very careful to go to the mikveh on the right night, even when it was very, very challenging. Okay, so that's our little introduction. Now, having said that the woman goes to the mikveh at the end of 7 days on the actually 8th night, and we in Chabad go only at night, not in the daytime, even if it's after that night. If for some legitimate reason or whatever it was, you did not go that night. If a husband is not in town, then we don't go that night. We wait till he comes back. So if you didn't go that night, we don't go the next day in the daytime. There are from Jewish communities where they allow the women to go in the daytime if it's after that 8th night. But we don't. We go only at night unless there are extremely extenuating circumstances. Then you have to ask a Rav Shaila. And then if a woman does get a heter to do that because it's dangerous or ice storms or whatever it is, but then either she's not supposed to come home until dark, or she's not supposed to tell her husband that she went to the mikveh, and that's because there can be no relations until dark, so it's better that the husband doesn't know or something like that. But it's very unusual that we usually we go only at night. Okay, so we're going to the mikveh at night. When are we doing the Tevillah? Everyone knows when it's dark. After Tzeis HaKochabim, when it's dark already. So, but the mitzvah of doing the Tevillah, we know, is not just to go into the mikveh. We have to prepare ourselves because the pasuk says, where it talks in Vayikra about the different tumas that come on a person, whatever it is, how do you get rid of it? V'rochatz b'mayim, he should tovel in the water. And which means, the Rambam explains, which means a mikveh and a kosher mikveh, and it's only a kosher mikveh that can take away the tumah. It's not, we know it doesn't mean dirty or physical uncleanliness, but it's a spiritual thing, and only a kosher mikveh, a woman or a man can tovel in, can go into the most beautiful pool, spa, jacuzzi, whatever it is. We know it's not going to help. We don't have to make a sales pitch here. It's only a kosher mikveh. So, and the other point is, we said it has to, kol b'sarei, all your skin, the water has to reach every inch of your body. There can be nothing separating between you and the water. What is the term for something separating? Chatzitza, right? There can be no chatzitza, no object foreign to you, foreign to your body, that's not going to let the water come into contact with that part of your body. So you have to be perfectly clean before you go into the mikveh, because the water has to reach every part of your body, and there can be no chatzitza. So we know, I mean, you're not kalos. This is a group of married women. There's a whole list of things that we do. It's not that hard for most people, taking a bath, a shower, cleaning, and so on, but it's a job, right? The question is, when are we going to do it? Okay? The Tevillah itself cannot be started till after dark. When should we start these preparations? The bath, the shower, the cutting the nails, the removing the makeup. When should we do it? Wait. So let's talk about the ideal situation. You know, you've seen with all, I mean, of course, as I said, you're married, you know this. There's the ideal situation in halacha if all circumstances permit, we're going to do it this way. This is the best way. And then, because we're human beings and we live normal lives and there are a lot of factors involved, there are very few things that we can't do. We work around the situation. So first we're going to talk about the Tevillah. Ideally, what does halacha say we should do for this preparatory cleansing that we're going to do? So there were two schools of thought. One school of thought says we need to do it really as close to the time of Tevillah as possible. So we should start it basically when it's dark already, when you can do the Tevillah, and then you'll Tevel. But the other school of thought says no, that's a little too late, because we need to start it in the daytime while there's still daylight. Remember, in the olden times, they didn't have electric lights and fluorescent lighting and all that. They had candles and kerosene and those kind of lanterns and so on. So the lighting was quite poor in the evening. So they wanted women to start in the daylight. But also because if you start when it's already time for Tevillah, when it's already dark, your natural tendency might be to rush. And I can already do the Tevillah. I can already go down into the mikveh. My husband's waiting, the babysitter's waiting, the baby has to nurse. It's like there's pressure, emotional, psychological pressure on the woman to try to rush. Maybe she'll skip something, maybe she won't do something so thoroughly. So what is the solution in halacha to combine both opinions? We start, everyone knows the ideal time to start is before Shkia. Basically, I know most mikvahs open around lichtbenchen time, which is 18 minutes before Shkia. So you start before Shkia, it's still daylight. And if you're starting before Shkia and your time span is till Tzeis HaKochavim, you basically have between an hour and 45 minutes, which is just the right amount of time for an average woman who's not too slow and who's not like one of these whirlwinds that does everything in 3 minutes, right? So that it should take you just about that amount of time, and then you're not going to be tempted to rush. There's no use to rush, because if you rush, you're just going to sit there and wait anyway. So that's the perfect amount of time. Now let's say you are one of these very quick people. Now, just let's differentiate. There's quick who does everything, and then there's quick who just does things, but she doesn't do them thoroughly, and she just kind of rushes and whatever. We're not talking about that kind of quick. That's a problem. But a person who's just faster, so it's not going to take you 45 minutes, it's going to take you 30 minutes or whatever it is, that's fine. Let's say you're a little slower, you're a little more thorough, you're a little more careful. It's not going to take you 45 minutes to an hour. Maybe it's going to take you an hour and a half to do your preparations. We're talking about doing everything now. We'll speak about if you want to start earlier. So that's fine too. An hour and a half. 2 hours should be tops. I mean, there's no reason why it should take a woman longer than that. The Ramban says that, and every woman should know that she's fully competent, fully capable of doing a proper Chafifa preparation. What is it called? Chafifa, which literally means washing and shampooing. Every Jewish woman is capable of doing it, and no one should feel, I can't do it, what if I don't do it well enough? What are we doing? We're taking a bath and cutting our nails and washing ourselves. We do these things every day, every week. It's part of us. And yes, I want to do it properly, and I don't want to have any problems, and I want Hashem to be happy with me. But Hashem made the woman that she could do these things. So the Ramban says that a woman should do what she has to do. You have to know what you have to do. That's why we learn, and we have books to read. We come to review class. We know what we have to do. You do it. If you have a problem, you ask a shayla, you ask the mikveh lady to help you. But you do what you have to do with confidence that you're a Jewish woman and that Hashem is helping you. Because what I said before, that Hashem doesn't give us challenges that we can't handle, there's also a pasuk that says, Haba l'taher Messiah. Someone comes to do the right thing, they want to do a mitzvah, they want to do it right, and they know that Hashem is in charge. Messiah, they help him from above. There's nothing that we do that's all ours. Everything that we do, if you're a great teacher, a great shlucha, a great business person, whatever you're doing, a great mother, a great wife, you think it's all you, it's all me, it's all us. It's Hashem gave you kishrainis, talents, but Hashem is helping. Hashem is, and the Rebbe's brachas, and so on and so forth. So every woman can do it. So it should, if it's taking someone over long, and she's asking again and again, did I do this right? It's an issue, and she needs to talk to someone, to the mikveh lady, to their professional from people today that deal with this, OCD, whatever it is, but it shouldn't be an issue. There's sometimes, unfortunately, a woman spends 3 hours in the mikveh, and then she comes home and she says to her husband, I don't know if I did it right. That's not healthy. That's not good. We need to take care of that, but that's not our discussion tonight. Okay, so that's the ideal way to do your preparations between lichbenchen and shkia to start and at last till the Tevillah. Now, can every woman do it that way every month? Obviously not. Some people are working then. Some people have a baby and they have to wait till their husband comes home. There are different situations when it's not possible. In the winter, it's certainly harder to do it than let's say, in the summer, when you might have to go to the mikveh after 7, might be easier, whatever it is. So if it comes out that you can do it at that time, it's more of a hiddur to do it at that time. But if you can't, it's perfectly fine. Now, so let's say you can't do it then. Can you do it earlier? Yes. Can you do something? Can you do some things during the day as preparation? Definitely. And if you have problem areas, skin that's very dry, peeling skin, cracked skin, all these kind of things, a woman knows 7 days before she's going to the mikveh when she's going to be going. You can be putting creams on all week. You can be doing all kinds of things to take away some of these problems. If you want to cut your nails, if you want to get a manicure and a pedicure that morning, of course without the nail polish being put on, and then, or just cut your own nails in the morning. If you're wearing heavy makeup, it's good not to wear heavy makeup that day if you could avoid it. But if for some reason you are, or any makeup, you want to remove it earlier, that's fine, because that takes time and that has to be done very, very carefully. If you're doing your own nails and you want to take off nail polish, that has to be done very carefully. You want to have good lighting and make sure you're not rushing, because one speck of nail polish that's left invalidates the Tevillah. You might have to go back. You might have to, even if you're in the mikveh and you come out and you see it, you have to Tevillah again. So we need to be very careful. So if you want to start those kind of things earlier, if you can, let's say when the baby's sleeping, or before the children get off the bus, or even if you're going to work, if you want to do something like cutting your nails early in the morning before you go to work, that's fine. And that way it will take you less time, so that if you're not starting before Shkia, you're coming in a half hour before Tevillah time, you would still be able to do it without having to rush. Or let's say you can't. You cannot start anything till after dark, till your husband comes home, till you're able to leave your house, or even if it's in your own home, if you have your own bathroom, especially if you have a beautiful bathroom. Some people have in the master bedroom their own bathroom. No one's going to bother them. It's pretty, it's conducive. A nice bathroom is conducive to being able to do the mitzvah b'simcha, because you enjoy the ambiance, the atmosphere, right? And you might have your own supplies that are very good quality and that you like, right? But you can't start till your husband comes home, till you're free, you don't have whatever. So that's also fine. But then they tell us, then you have to do it very carefully, slowly, and it should take you an hour. Now, an hour might seem like a long time, but this is to ensure that you don't rush. Because remember, we said psychologically you're tempted to rush. Let's do this, and I can get to the mikveh, or I'm in the mikveh, I can Tevillah and come home already. So we have to take extra time to make sure that we're not going to rush. If anything is a problem, then we can always, of course, ask a shaila. By the way, if anything is said here tonight that's different than what you learned, different than what you're doing, that whatever doesn't sound right to you, of course, you can always ask a question. At the end, we'll take questions. But you can also please check with your Rav. Maybe I'm not saying something correctly, maybe it's not being heard correctly, and there are different Rabbanim to give different psak on many little things, and sometimes it's an individual psak for you due to certain situations, circumstances. Okay, we're going to start exactly what we have to do, but before that, let's start first, and then we'll come to the Friday night. So what do we have to do? A woman has to wash her entire body, head to toe, starting with the hair all the way down to the feet. Now, there is no halachic order that you have to do it in, right? You could do it any way you want. But most people will work head to toe. Very few people work toe to head. And doing it in an orderly way, in an organized way, meaning literally going down, will help ensure that you don't forget anything. There is a beautiful Mikvah checklist that's hanging, I'm sure, in the mikveh here, it hangs in our mikveh in Crown Heights, which is a reminder of all the different things where you have to do. I can't urge you strongly enough that to always, every time, look at that checklist. Today's times, it's hanging, and if you're doing your preparations in the mikveh, it's hanging right there. But if you're doing your main preparations at home, of course, you can always look at it, the mikveh, when you come to shower. But today's times, you can either buy, they have the laminated, oh, look, she has one. But then I was thinking something else you could do is, see, I have this old-fashioned cell phone, but you all have smartphones, and you could take a picture. So next time you go either from something like this or in the mikveh, take a picture and put it on your phone if you don't have it there already. So when you do your preparations for mikveh, it's right there, right? We're still into paper and things like that. Okay. And this has been updated. It's very beautiful, but it has also been updated with the latest suggestions. Okay. So let's start then from the top with your hair. We know that one of the main things that we have to take care of is the hair. The hair has to be washed with warm water, soap, but or shampoo, not shampoo that has additives to it. We want pure, plain shampoo. And the same thing is with the soap. We don't want the soap with the moisturizers. We don't want the soap with the oils and all those things, which are lovely for every other day of the month. But on mikveh day, we don't want that because that leaves, and that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to moisturize your skin and leave something there that's nice, that's beautiful, but not on mikveh day. We want the water to reach your real skin. So that's why, I don't know about here in Morristown, but I know in Crown Heights, I think in most mikvahs, what will you find if you use their supplies and don't bring your own? The cheap baby shampoo and those little things of soap like you get in motels or whatever so there's two reasons why they're using it. One is it's cheap. And the other reason maybe it's just as much a consideration is these things don't have those added things. It's plain shampoo and plain soap. They say even the Johnson's baby shampoo, which you think baby shampoo, even that has things added to it. So what do they get? The cheap, plain, generic baby shampoo and those little things of soap. So what about conditioner? Because we know that in addition to washing your hair thoroughly, rinsing it well in warm water, nobody wants to use cold water, but if you're in a situation where there's a lack of hot water, warm water, we need to try to get at least some warm water for the hair because cold water causes knots and tangles. That's washing and rinsing. But then the hair needs to be combed so that there is not one knot left in the hair. a single hair that's knotted in itself is a major chatzitza. So we want to get out all the knots. So we're going to comb our hair after we wash and rinse. You're going to comb your hair with a good comb. What's a good comb? The mikvahs have combs. A lot of women bring their own combs, or if you're doing it at home, it's a comb where the teeth are not too wide apart. I should have brought one along, but everyone knows what a good comb is. It doesn't have to be as fine as the combs that we use for lice or nits. That's extremely fine. It's in between. There are many combs that come with wider teeth, and then the teeth are closer together. So we're going to use the side of the comb where the teeth are closer together and comb out there. And you might have to brush your hair before you comb it. That's fine. But you have to be able to go through with the comb that there should be no knots. So many women might say, though, my hair is extremely kinky, it's extremely frizzy, I must use conditioner. Can you use conditioner? So that's one of these. How should we do one of these for the people who are listening in? That's, they're different things. The point is, if you can avoid conditioner, in other words, if you can get your hair not free, if you can comb it not free without using the conditioner, even if normally you do use conditioner, that's preferable. If you can't, without conditioner, it just won't work. So then, if in the bottom line is without conditioner, it won't work, then the Rabbanim say that you could use the conditioner, just try to rinse it out well, and then comb your hair. But just conditioner, not the other kinds of things that they add to the shampoo. There are some women, some places are very makel. Some Rabbanim are very makel. Maybe out of town, they're more makel with the conditioner, and they say, lechatchila, you could use conditioner. But I know in Crown Heights, you could use it, but if you don't have to use it, better not to. And there's some women who, if they want to be extra careful, found that they do have a problem, but if they wash their hair with conditioner, shampoo with conditioner, then they rinse that out, right? They rinse that out thoroughly, and they wash their hair again with regular shampoo without conditioner, but I guess there's still enough left that they're then able to comb through the hair, and it works. So one time they used the conditioner, and then the second wash was without the conditioner, but it was enough to, so that, I guess you could call it like a hitter for somebody who wants to try, or if it works for you, that's a suggestion. But otherwise, I know if it's really a problem, Rabbanim will let to use the conditioner so that you can get your hair not free, because it must be not free. A woman who comes to the mikveh Friday night could be a problem, because if you do all your preparations at home, we'll talk about that. But if you come to the mikveh and there's a hair there that's knotted, show it to the mikveh lady, but you can't pull it out. You can't comb it out, because Shabbos you're not allowed to tear hair out. You can't pull it out for the same reason. So, we had I know probably more than one, but I know of one case in Crown Heights where the mikveh lady, she ran around to get a rav, it was Friday night, and she found a rav, but this poor lady had to go home. She couldn't tevel that night. So, yeah, it doesn't happen that often, but I'm just saying that it's very important to get the knots out. Now, we were advised by the Sheitelmachers that just as it is important to comb your hair and get the knots out, but don't overcomb it. Meaning, especially if you have plain straight hair, nothing's going to happen. But if you have the frizzier hair, the curlier or kinkier hair, they say when you comb it too much, what happens is it gets more elastic and it frizzes up. It gets tighter and it can knot up. So comb it enough so that you can go through it with the comb. You feel there are no knots. You can feel with your hands if there are no knots, and then stop. It's like overkill. Don't overdo it, because then you could be making yourself a problem. Okay, that's the hair. Oh, but I just want to finish with the hair. We're going to be taking a bath. It's an inyan. Now we're going to talk about the bath. To dafka, take a bath, not just a shower, even not just a really good shower, but a bath we need to soak in the water. And some communities, other communities, not Chabad, have a time frame, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it is, depends where you are. We don't have a mandatory time frame. It's recommended, though, that a woman soak in the tub, some say 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and this is to make it easier to get anything that's sticking to you off, and especially scabs and dried skin that with soaking in water comes off much, much easier. So we need to wash also, not just soap with your hand. We use a washcloth or a sponge, those special sponges, so that you have something like to rub with. So if you soak and then there's something there, and even more so if there's something there in the back of your foot or on your back, and you don't even really realize it's there, but if you've soaked in the water and then you're using that sponge or that washcloth or on your back, the thing on the long handle, right? And when you rub it, it's going to come off. And you may, as I said, not even have realized it was there to begin with. Okay, so you're going to be taking the bath, and then, but when you sit in a tub for 20 minutes or whatever it is, and you soap yourself, and that 20 minutes, I mean, some people just, this is their night out. They just lay back and close their eyes for 20 minutes, and then they start doing things. If that works for you, fine. But you don't have to. You could be busy. You could be doing things, cutting your nails, washing yourself, whatever it is you need to do during that time. But when you're sitting in the water and soaping and whatever, and then there's going to be hair, the water, when you're finished, is not going to, there's going to be soap scum, there's going to be hair. So you don't want to, you can't go into the mikveh straight from the bathtub. So what do? We let out the water, we stand up, and we take a shower to rinse off from the hair and to rinse off the body. So why am I telling you this now? Because we were talking about the hair and combing it. A great time to comb the hair or to go through it again is when you're under the shower. Your hair is clean already from the shampoo, or if you want to wash it now, fine. But then you take the comb and you go through your hair, rinsing it and making sure all the knots are out. What you're accomplishing is you're rinsing yourself off, you're combing, but the hairs that are going to fall on your body because of the combing are going to be washed away by the shower. So it's going to make it much easier for you when you come out of the shower and you have to check yourself. It's going to make it much easier. There's not going to be so much hair on your body that you have to deal with. Okay, so that's about washing the hair. Now the face. As we mentioned before, all makeup has to be carefully removed. You know what you wear. You know how to get it off. You know the hard spots. You know what takes more time, less time. You got to deal with it, and you got to be very thorough about it. The eyes have to be checked, the corner of the eyes, inside, across. Some people, if you have a little cold or things like that. The eyebrows, the eyelashes should be checked. It said all makeup removed. The nose, you take something, usually a Q-tip or something, and it only has to go in the beginning of the nose. You don't have to go all the way up. That could be harmful. No, but seriously, but the beginning of the nose, blow your nose, depends. If you have a cold, do it a little more thoroughly, and so on. The ears, we clean the ears with Q-tips or whatever. Behind the ear, there are many times little crust or something like that. When you're, again, putting the Q-tip in the actual ear, right? You go in a little bit. You don't go all the way in. You don't go to the eardrum. You have to be carefully. I mean, you're experienced enough to know that. But just be careful with the ears, especially when you use the Q-tips, that none of the cotton gets left either inside in the folds or in the back or so on, because that would be a real tzitza. Then we come to the mouth, which is, of course, removing lipstick and then brushing the teeth, right? So the teeth have to be thoroughly brushed and flossed. Now, with the floss, we want to use floss that's not going to get stuck between the teeth. So you need to find, it's best to use floss that's not waxed, so it doesn't leave wax between your teeth and so on. But some people find that floss that's not waxed gets stuck between their teeth, which is even a bigger chatzitza, because pieces of floss, that's a real chatzitza. But I was told I'm not so good about flossing. But I was told that there are brands of floss that's not waxed that they don't shred. In other words, you have to experiment floss that works for you, that doesn't get stuck between your teeth. If you can find floss that's not waxed that will do that, that's the best. Okay, now I mentioned the hair, combing the hair on your head. The same way all hair on the body, whatever other hair you may have, has to be washed, rinsed, and we have to make sure that there are no knots. Whether you do it with a comb or with your hands, doesn't matter. But you have to go, whether it's, if you have hair under your arms, between your legs, even the eyebrows and the eyelashes, they have to be washed, and you have to make sure that the eyelashes don't stick together, and so on. So you have to take care of that. Now we spoke about the soap, not using soap with any oils or anything. Okay, nails, fingernails, right? Everyone knows they have to cut they have to clean the nails, under the nails, cut the nails, the 10 fingernails and the 10 toenails. Now it says that there is, when we're nida and the nails grow, there's a certain extra tumah. We know our nails are a source of tumah in the sense that every morning we wash nagelwasser, right? Because the tumah attaches itself to our nails when we sleep. Same way, when a woman is nida, there is some extra tumah in the number that has to do with the number 20 that attaches itself to her nails. So before we go to the mikveh, we cut the 10 fingernails and the 10 toenails, which make 10 and 10 make 20. We are we're getting rid of that extra tumah. And that's why it's important to cut the nails and to cut them short, because what grows during that time when we're nida, that's especially the part that absorbs the tumah. So we cut the nails short as you can, without, of course, going into the skin. And that could be a hiddur. That could, if someone, sometimes there are some people that it's kind of hard for them to cut their nails short. But that could be an extra way of showing that we're taking on the mitzvah behiddur and doing it the best way, the most beautiful way. And again, as I said, the nails, though, have to be perfectly clean. Everyone knows that. Now, there are different minhagim connected with cutting the nails that people have. So many of us, most people don't cut their nails on Thursday, right? I think all people. We don't cut the nails on Thursday because then they start to grow on Shabbos. Some people don't cut their nails at night. They only cut in the daytime. Some people don't cut fingernails and toenails on the same day. So if you have these minhagim for preparation for mikveh, all these minhagim are set aside and mikveh takes precedence. You can cut your nails on Thursday and you can do them at night as you're preparing for mikveh, and you can do fingernails and toenails and so on. Mikveh takes precedence. We don't cut our nails chalamayid. If you're going to the mikveh chalamayid, you cut your nails. That takes precedence. We have a minhag to cut the nails. We skip, right? This is minhag Chabad. I'm not sure. Someone can help me if it's in the Shulchan Aruch or it's minhag Chabad, whatever it is. But what? It is. Okay, so we skip, right? Now, that's fine. You can continue doing that if you do it all the time and you do it. It's just like second nature to you. That's how you cut your nails. And you don't find, I remember I usually do it that way and I don't have a problem. But once I like to cut my nails on Friday, nothing to do with mikveh, and Shabbos. I said, what is this big nail doing here? Big meaning, relatively for me. And I forgot to do it. So it could happen. So I'm saying, if you think, well, it shouldn't be a problem because the mikveh lady is going to look and make sure all your nails are cut. But if you're used to doing it and it's your habit, you're regulus to skip, then do it that way. If it's not your habit for whatever reason, then when you're preparing for mikveh is not the time to start a new habit. Or if you're teaching somebody or bringing somebody to keep taras mishpacha, and she never cut her nails that way, don't start with that. She has to know she has to cut every nail, because a nail that's not cut can have to redo the tevillah, can invalidate the tevillah. So that's the most important thing at this time. Okay, now, if you're doing all the preparations in the mikveh, so then we said you're going to take the bath and then the shower and do the tevillah. If you're doing your preparations at home, so when you're going to do your bath at home, then you're going to go to the mikveh. Now, obviously, when you finished your preparations at home, you're not going to put on makeup. You're not going to put on deodorant. You're not going to put on perfume or anything like that, because then you're going to have to start the whole process again. So you're just going to go to the mikveh, the real natural you. When you come to the mikveh, though, you still have to shower. It's not enough, even if you live 5 minutes away from the mikveh, because you got dressed, you walked there, you probably touched some things, even though you were careful. So you're going to shower, and go into the shower room. You don't have to re-soap and do your whole body again if you're literally coming from just having taken the bath, but you would rinse yourself off. You would definitely rinse your hair, comb your hair again in the mikveh. And then the last thing we do, whether you're doing everything in the mikveh or bath at home and shower in the mikveh, is checking ourselves. What is the halachic terminology for checking ourselves? Iyun. Iyun means paying attention. I don't know how many of you have boys who are learning Gemara already, or maybe husbands, but there are two ways to learn Gemara, especially in the schools. They learn Gemara be'iyun or Gemara legirsa. Legirsa means superficially, just to get the gist of what the Gemara is saying to know. Iyun means paying attention. That's where they do the pilpul and go into depth in the Gemara. So when we say that a woman has to check herself, it's called iyun. And this is min ha-Torah. It's a requirement that before you do tevillah, you check yourself, or the mikveh lady check you, but you have to be checked. Otherwise, you can't do the tevillah. And if it was not done at all, not by you and not by the mikveh lady, the tevillah is not valid. It's min ha-Torah. It's a precondition to tevillah. Iyun. You have to check every part of you, visually and manually. Visually, those parts that you can see, and manually by touching parts like on your back or things that you can't see, which is why, of course, we have the mikveh lady who does help. Now, the responsibility, the halachic responsibility of the mikveh lady is not the checking you. That's really our responsibility. Her responsibility for being there is seeing that you do a kosher tevillah, that you're totally under the water, and that every hair on your head is under the water. There's also a person is not supposed to go down into water alone. There's supposed to be another person for safety's sake. But her main halachic responsibility is to see that you do a kosher tevillah. The fact that it's become the custom that the mikveh lady helps check us is a custom, but it's not her responsibility, it's your responsibility, our responsibility to check ourselves. Today, for most women don't want too much checking on the part of the mikveh lady. She checks your fingernails, your toenails, and she will check the back over here where we really can't see, and feeling would help if there was something substantial, but if they're just hairs on the back of your neck or on your back, you're not going to see them. So that's her job. If you want the mikveh lady to check more, if you're comfortable with it and you think it could be helpful to you, then you can ask. But they won't do it on their own because most women are want to be more private about that. By the way, when you're doing your preparations, if you have any questions, or when it comes and she's checking your nails, if you had a problem with something, if you see something that doesn't look perfect, you can show it to the mikveh lady. You can ask her. She has some special scissors and files and things like that. Or if it's some kind of little shiloh, you're not sure about something, the mikveh ladies are very knowledgeable and all these different things that come up all the time. Or sometimes they will pick up the phone and call. They know how to reach a Rav. We are not always able to reach a Rav, but they have cell numbers and things that they could reach the Rav and ask a shiloh for you if it's nageya, if it's pertinent to right now going to the mikveh. So, develop a relationship with your mikveh lady and take advantage of, meaning, use it to your, and she will be, I'm sure, more than happy to help you. Okay, now what if you have to go Friday night? So you can't start your preparations before Shkia and continue into night. So we know we do everything Friday afternoon, and then you finish, you did your bath, your shower at home, and then you have to finish, of course, before licht benchen, and you have to, you're not going to put on makeup. You're not going to put on deodorant, perfume, or anything like that. And for those of us who find it hard to be without makeup on Shabbos, and especially Friday night, I just want to tell you that the beauty of the mitzvah and of the Shechina will shine from your face, a much more powerful kind of beauty than the makeup. I know the makeup is important, don't get me wrong, but this is a special makeup for Friday night mikveh, because we know that husband and wife relations, this is not tonight's topic, on Friday night are very, very special according to Torah, according to Kabbalah, and so on. And if it's not mikveh night, Friday night, it's even more special, more holy. So that power of that kedusha rests on the face of the woman. By the way, though, you can only go to the mikveh Friday night if that's your real night to go. If you were supposed to go Thursday night, so if your husband wasn't in town and you didn't go Thursday night, you're allowed to go Friday night. But if you, for some reason, you didn't do what we said before and you just didn't go, you couldn't rise above certain challenges, then you're really not supposed to go Friday night, because that's only for women that's their real night to go. Of course, you can always ask a shaila if it seems to you, or also if you're dealing with women, as I said, who are not yet fully from, but they're willing to go to the mikveh. You wouldn't want such a person to push off going to the mikveh one extra day, because you don't know what could happen, what kind of temptations they could have. But in general, it's for women whose real night to go is Friday night. There are communities, I think from the Hasidic communities, that don't open the mikveh Friday night. They're afraid of Hilchos Shabbos. They're afraid the women might do something that you're not allowed to do on Shabbos, like maybe with the comb the hair, or the hot water, but they can close the boiler so there's no hot water. But they're different, squeezing the hair afterwards. Well, in those communities, they don't have any hair to squeeze. But whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? The mikveh is closed Friday night. So by us, the mikveh is open. As a matter of fact, the mikveh in Chabad is open, in the Jewish calendar, but 363 nights a year. There are 2 nights of the year when there's no mikveh, the night of Tisha B'Av and the night of Yom Kippur, when relations are forbidden. Otherwise, it's open Friday night, Yontif night, the second night of Yontif, the third night, whatever it is. And there are ways to deal with that. Okay, so getting back to the Friday night, you do everything at home. Now, of course, you're taking this bath that has to take you time. You're doing all these things. You have to make sure that you have access to the bathroom, and that if you have children, there's someone around so that they don't come banging on the door. Ma, what are you doing there for so long? Ma, I need the bathroom. This happens, So again, if you have your own bathroom in the master bedroom and there's someone around, your husband or someone else who's watching the kids, that's great, but you have to think about that. If that's not your situation, then what many women do is they will do a good part of the preparations earlier in the day. when the baby's sleeping or the children are still in school or no one else needs to shower then, you'll make sure that your kids get their bath or shower Thursday night instead of Friday afternoon, and so on and so forth. But you got to think about your cooking should be finished so that, well, unless your husband's going to put the food on the blech or you're going to put on gloves, but you don't want to get dirty again, you're going to think, you're going to plan this out so that it works. Some women rarely go to the mikveh Friday night, so it's like a big deal when it happens to them. And I've had calls from colleagues that I taught every so often, and it's usually the same girl, whatever, but I have to go Friday night, or Motzei Shabbat, what should I do? That's fine. If you don't go off, something we do often, we get into a pattern. If it doesn't happen to you often, or you just don't remember, or whatever it is, call your college teacher, call your mikveh lady. I mean, you could call a Rav, but you don't have to bother a Rav unless you have a specific shaila. But call someone and go through it. What should I do? How should I work it out? Because it doesn't happen all the time. For some people, it does happen all the time. And then it's, is it an issue in Morristown about walking to the mikveh Friday night? What?
Dark. It's scary.
But you could do it. It's doable? It's doable. Okay, but there is the option, I don't know if women here do that, there is the option of walking with someone, no, of going to the mikveh. The whole thing, people do that here, and either the husband benches licht or the woman benches licht, but she's not Makabel Shabbos. There are options like that, and she goes to the mikveh when she could get a ride or drive to the mikveh, and then she walks home. At least she's only walking one way. So there are options. If you need to, you could, discuss that. Now, but what are you going to do when you come to the mikveh? You're not going to take a bath or a shower. You're not going to comb your hair. What you need to do is you need to go through your hair with your hands or a very soft brush if they have that, just to make sure there are no knots. You would rinse your hands under cold water, maybe the bottom of your feet under cold water, and check yourself. The Ian part, you should have done it at home. But this you need to do again right before mikveh to check yourself. What? You don't have to rinse the bottom of your feet. But look at it. Yeah, that's part of Ian because you put on socks, you put on shoes, you walked, and whatever it is. Now, this question, we did the same class last night in Crown Heights. Question came up about going to the bathroom. It says in this forum that if a woman needs, let's say you go to the bathroom before you start your preparations, but you feel you need to go again, by the time you finish, you need to go again. It's not an Indian. I say, okay, I'll just hold myself in. It's not urgent until afterwards. We're not supposed to do that because when you hold yourself in, your muscles are all tight, and then we're afraid the water won't get everywhere it's supposed to go. So you're supposed to go to the bathroom, clean yourself off afterwards with water properly, make sure if there's any hair there that it's not knotted, and so on. But last night the question came up about, well, if I'm going to the bathroom, about washing my hands after the bathroom and asher yotzar. So we checked that out. You don't have to wash your hands afterwards or say asher yotzar. When you go into the mikveh, if there's a sink there and you can wash, but we certainly don't say asher yotzar. When you go into the mikveh, that first tevillah that we do before we say the bracha, that removes anything, any tumah that's on us from the bathroom or from. Don't forget, you also took a bath, cut your nails, washed your hair. Now, at home, when you take a bath or shower and do these things, and you come out, we wash negelwasser. So we're not doing negelwasser for that either before tevillah. But that first tevillah before the bracha takes care of that. Asher yotzar, you will say when you finish everything and you get dressed, you go out. We wash negelwasser when we're finished with the whole thing. And at that point, if you went to the bathroom, either any point, either before tevillah or after tevillah, you would say asher yotzar then. So that takes care of that. Now, Friday night, then you'll go do the Tevillah. Now, normally, when you're taking your shower right before you do the Tevillah on a weekday, so you're usually wet when you go into the mikveh. And they tell us that not to dry yourself off, even if you put on a robe while you're waiting or to walk to the mikveh, but don't dry yourself off. Let the water stay on your body, because it's an inyan to be wet when you go into the mikveh, because water attracts water, and that way we're more sure that the water will reach every inch of you. But either if you're, even on a weekday, if you had to wait for your turn 10, 15 minutes and you're sitting in your robe, you're going to dry off. Or certainly Friday night, when you're coming in, you're not coming in wet. So you're chatchila dry. So it's an inyan, it's not something that if you don't do it, your tevillah won't be kosher. But it's an inyan that when you go down into the water before you start the tevillah, that you wet your hands and that you put water on the hidden places and the places with folds, behind your ears, on your eyes, on your lips, under your arm, under your breast, in the navel area, between your legs, or just like bend down in the water up to your neck to make sure you're all wet. This is before you start to do the tevillah. As I said, it's a commendable thing. It's not ma'akev, meaning if you didn't do it, it doesn't invalidate the tevillah, because you are going to do a proper tevillah. When you come into the mikveh, if you're dry, if you're not all wet from the shower, then you should get yourself wet, especially in the hidden places, the places with folds. Like, you don't have to worry about your arm, but under your arms and behind your ears, your eyes, your lips, between your legs, the navel. Women, let me just, because the thought is coming to now, nursing mothers, pay attention to the nipple. They're usually dried milk, caked milk could be there, and we don't always remember about that. Okay, now you're coming out Friday night. So, you're just going to get dry and whatever. What do you have to be careful of? Your hair. Your hair is soaking wet, and we can't take the towel and wring out and get the hair really dry. You could just kind of shake your hair so the water, and very, very lightly, you could put the towel over it, but we have to be very careful not to squeeze the hair. Okay, that's Friday night. Motzei Shabbos. You have to go to the mikveh Motzei Shabbos. That's your real night. What's the problem? Why should there be a problem? My husband makes Havdalah, and then I'm allowed to do anything. I go take my bath. So it's going to, okay, if it's at night, we start at night, I have to make it take an hour so I'm not rushing. But why are we talking about it? The point was, though, you were supposed to, the chatchila, we're supposed to start our preparations shkiyata, before shkiyah, daylight. You can't do that on Shabbos. There's no way we could do that on Shabbos. So therefore, we have a situation where what they tell us to do is do all our preparations Erev Shabbos. If you can, if it works out for you. You have the bathroom, you have the time, and so on. Do everything, head to toe. The only difference is, for those of us who really care about who want the makeup or the perfume, the deodorant, you're allowed to put it on. If you're going to the mikveh Motzei Shabbos, if you're going Friday night, no. If you're going Motzei Shabbos, you could put it on lightly, especially with the makeup. Don't overdo it because it'll be so much harder to get off, but you could put it on and then you'll take extra care Motzei Shabbos to make sure it's off. So if you can do everything Friday, then Motzei Shabbos, we still have to do something. If you took a full bath and did everything, then they say you could take just a good shower Motzei Shabbos, having been careful on Shabbos to try not to have chetzitzas, to try not to get your hands stained up or sticky or put on gloves. Do as much as you can that you shouldn't become, have a lot of chetzitzas again. So then you could just take a thorough shower Motzei Shabbos, and of course comb and wash yourself, but with soap and shampoo, but it's going to go faster, and then you comb your hair and check yourself, right? But if you couldn't do everything Erev Shabbos, you didn't have the time, you didn't have the bath, whatever it is, if you can do something substantial Erev Shabbos. That could also help so that Motzei Shabbos, if you didn't take a bath, then you have to take a bath Motzei Shabbos. But the idea of it should take you a full hour if you did something substantial, like you washed your hair, which many of us anyway take a shower at least Erev Shabbos, or some say cutting the nails is sufficient, some say it's not enough, but certainly washing your body or your hair would. If you couldn't do anything except, like a 30-second shower or whatever like that, then you're going to do everything Motzei Shabbos thoroughly and take the hour to do it. So this concept will also apply to the 2 times of the year we said when we can't actually go to the mikveh that night, Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur. We're going to go, if my real night to go was the night of Tisha B'Av or the night of Yom Kippur, or even if my night to go was the following night, but I can't go that night, but it's the right thing to do. Do all your preparations, Erev Tisha B'Av. Imagine soaking in the bathtub, Erev Tisha B'Av. I mean, many of us are not so strict anymore about, used to be that you didn't even take a shower, whatever. But now everyone takes showers in the 9 days. But Erev Tisha B'Av, you're soaking in the bathtub, you're cutting your nails, you're doing all this stuff. But yes, we are allowed to do it. We're supposed to do it so that when you have to go Motzei Tisha B'Av, and the same thing for Yom Kippur, it will be easier for you. You won't have to do a whole, don't forget you've been fasting the whole day. Some people might be weak. You definitely eat first. You hear Havdalah and you eat first. So that, Motzei Tisha B'Av, you don't have to hear Havdalah if it's a weekday, but Yom Kippur, or if it's Shabbos Tisha B'Av, you hear Havdalah first, you eat first. The mikveh people are also going to eat first. So they don't open the mikveh quite as early as usual, and maybe hopefully that'll give you a little kayach. Of course, don't eat something heavy or things that are going to get stuck in your teeth, which we will soon discuss, but definitely eat something, and then, you can do your Tevillah. Now, there is the thing about going on Yontif. If it's the first night of Yontif, it's really just like Friday night, except if it's the first night of Yontif, when you come to the mikveh, you could use some warm water if you want to rinse off or so on. But there's the second night and third night, and for kind of lack of time and the fact that it's not happening right now, our next Yontif is Pesach. In other words, if we were doing this 2 weeks before Rosh Hashanah and Sukkot, I would make it a point we need to discuss this. But the next Yontif is Pesach. Until then, you're going to forget whatever we say anyway. So, no, really, because this is something that doesn't come up often. So for myself, for other women, I say, when you're in this situation, call your college teacher, call the mikveh lady. They did give out a paper, maybe it's hanging in your mikveh, of what you're supposed to do if you have to go the second night or third night of Yontif. So it's not that hard, but it's, there are certain details to it. There are certain things you have to take care of. What you always have to take care of course, is iyun, checking yourself. That's not a halachic issue on Yontif or whatever. And the other thing is you're not allowed to prepare for one day Yontif to the other. So you would have to do whatever it is you have to do. You could only do it when it's already the second night. You can't do anything before that, but we're going to leave that. So here at this point, it does mention what I said before about for Motzei Tisha B'Av or Yontif not to eat things that get stuck in your teeth. But we know that mikveh day in general, a woman is not supposed to eat meat. Why? Because meat tends to stick between the teeth. That's one of the reasons it takes longer to digest, that we wait 6 hours between fleischiks and milchiks, between meat and dairy, whatever. If by any reason you ate meat, whether you forgot or whatever it was, you're still allowed to go to the mikveh, but you have to be very, very careful how you clean your teeth. But this meat is mentioned in Shulchan Aruch. Now, it also applies to chicken, but it does not apply to a clear, like a meat soup, clear soup or clear chicken soup that has no meat or chicken in it. That would be allowed. It's not the idea of being fleischiks, it's the idea of the pieces, whatever. Other foods that or some of them are mentioned, it's not in Shulchan Aruch, that can stick between your teeth, for your benefit, avoid them on that day, so that, because if you eat them, as I said, you're allowed to go to the mikveh, but we know some people, corn on the cob, regular corn, popcorn, oranges get stuck between some people's teeth. Whatever it is that you know that tends to get stuck between your teeth, try to avoid it on that day so that you have less problems cleaning it and you're not worried, oh, what if? Okay, now, chatzitza, let's just talk for a few minutes about the concept of chatzitza that we mentioned, that there's not allowed to be anything separating between you and the water, which is called a chatzitza, something that blocks the water from reaching your skin. So what are some of the common chatzitzas? We mentioned the knotted hair is a chatzitza. Band-aids. You know when you take a Band-aid off, what's like it's sticky and there's some black there, whatever it is. That's a chatzitza that has to be removed. Any creams or medications or lotions that you rub into your skin that you feel, that's a chatzitza that has to be washed off and removed. Be careful under the arm. We wash under the arm, but many deodorants leave a sticky residue. Like it's just, you just feel something there from the deodorant. And just a light washing even with a washcloth, and so it doesn't always get it off. So you need to feel it with your hand and make sure that there's no residue under the arm from deodorant or from perspiration. We mentioned the eye, but you have to be careful. There's nothing in the eye. If you feel that you have a hair in the eye or a foreign substance, that has to come out. That's a chatzitza. If your eye is discharging, so if it's inside the eye, it's not, and it's wet, it's not a chatzitza, but if it started to dry, it's crusty, that's a chatzitza, you would have to get it out. Many times when we're either cutting our nails, or I think Mrs. Morozov mentioned last week that on the day of the mikveh we should try not to shave or wax, right? Waxing is its own problem because waxing leaves a residue. So it's not a good thing to wax on the day of mikveh, and to try to do it a couple days before. You know your body, you know your wax, how long it takes for that residue, that sticky feeling to get off. It doesn't say you're not allowed to go if you waxed, but you got to work really hard, or shave your legs. Then there's a lot of hair around. Cut your hair. It's not good to do these things on the day of the mikveh because of that reason. But sometimes if you are shaving your legs that day, we nick, or with the scissors, you're cleaning your nails or you're doing something, you nick yourself and you start to bleed. You get all nervous, oh, I'm bleeding, that's a chatzitza, whatever. So you try to stop the blood, hold it under water or press against it. Wet, fresh blood is not a chatzitza. If it's around you, of course, it has to be washed off. But on the wound itself, it's not a chatzitza. Dried blood, if you have a wound, or if you have pus, a pus pimple, you don't have to break it. If it's not open, it's inside the pus, it's not a chatzitza. But if it starts oozing, then the first 3 days, it's fresh, it's not a chatzitza on the wound itself. After 3 days, it gets hard, it becomes like scabby, and that's a chatzitza, and it has to be soaked and softened, and either it gets off totally, that's why we said we soak, or it becomes so soft that we consider it like you can't get it off, because if you rub too hard, it'll still bleed. It's still a little too fresh to actually rub it off, but it becomes soft again, so it's like your real skin, and it's not considered a chatzitza. Okay, splinter under the skin. If it's totally under the skin, it's not a chatzitza. If it's on the surface so that you can feel it or it's sticking out, it's a real chatzitza and it has to be removed. But it says that it's good to get off anything that doesn't belong there. And there is a thing about splinters that if it stays under there, it's going to get infected. It doesn't belong there. And anything that doesn't belong under your skin, eventually will get infected. The only thing is, if you don't care about it and it's not bothering you now and you're afraid to start up with it because you're afraid if you start to try to get it out, maybe there's no one to help you, maybe you could ask the mikveh lady, whatever, but you might make it worse. You might start and you might not be able to get it out, then leave it alone. But if it can be gotten out easily, it's better for health reasons to take it out, and even for chatzitza reasons, that there should be nothing there. Anything with substance, crumbs, anything you can feel, paste, glue, mud, I don't know where mud comes from, but dough. Everyone knows about dough, that we're not supposed to knead dough on the day of mikveh because dough really sticks, hard to get off from your hands. Although it says that if you used to making your challah on Friday and you're going to the mikveh Friday and you must do it Friday, you couldn't do it Thursday night, you're allowed to do it. But then it's your responsibility to get it, every speck of that dough off your hands. Now, that's something with a substance. And we try to avoid these kind of things, though, on the day of mikveh. Paste, glue, as I said. You want to plaster your house. Don't do it on mikveh day. Or if you must do something, you're a teacher and you must do something, we love those disposable gloves, right? That helps. If, though, you get some kind of stain on your hand, it's not a substance. You don't feel it. It's just a stain. Then you have to try to get it off. There are many things that can help take it off. Besides soap and water, there's substances that are might be a little rough, but they work for a lot of people. I've used Comet. It works really good with a washcloth or a nail brush. Yep. Soft scrub. There's always a little thing with bleach in the mikveh usually. I don't know, by us there is. You're not going to pour bleach on your hand or on any skin directly. But if you take a cup of water and pour a little bleach in, and you take the nail brush and the soap, sometimes that will get off that color. One other thing that I know it worked for me, but you have to be careful because it takes off the stain, could also take off a little skin, is the Pumice Stone. So by Beis Rivka, we have the gate, it's not a metal gate, it's like the wrought iron, whatever, and they had just painted it that day, or the day before. I don't know, I had to see if it was dry, so I went like this. Well, it wasn't quite dry, so I had silver paint on my hand. I wasn't going to the mikveh that night. It wasn't an issue with mikveh, but I wanted to get the paint off, so I think, what could I do? And I tried, and then my son said, Ma, why don't you use the Pumice Stone? It's a stone that, like you used for calluses or the back of your heels, it smooths the skin. Yeah, you get it in the drugstore, whatever. You know what? It really, really worked. The paint came out. Now, paint you could touch. It's not just the color. So if I was going to mikveh, you could feel the paint. That might have been a real issue. But anyway, I wasn't going to the mikveh. But it rubbed off a little bit of the skin with it. I'm saying, so just be careful if you're going to use the stone. Now, we mentioned the nails, okay? Warts and corns are not a chatzitza if you don't bother them. But if you start with it, if it's half hanging off or half on, half off, you try to get it off and it doesn't come off, then it would be chatzitza. So leave it alone if it's not bothering you, whatever. Okay, now we come to the inyan of makbid, right? Everyone knows what is a chatzitza. It's something that's foreign to you. It's not part of your body. It doesn't belong on you. So it's blocking the water. There are other things, though, that, like the hair on my head, I don't have to shave my head. That's my hair growing out of my head. But there are other things on our body that are part of us. They're natural. They're the me, the hair that grows on me, or things around my nails and so on. But I don't like it. I'm makbid on it. That's the word makbid. I don't want it. Some people might say I hate it. I just can't tolerate hair on my legs, hair under my arms. These kind of things, when we do the waxing, the bikini, whatever it is. But it's gross. And I make it my business to remove it so that you never see it on me. It's not there, right? Some people daily, some people as often as you have to do it. So while it's not a chatzitza in the sense that it's foreign to me, it's growing out of my body. I don't want it, and that makes it a chatzitza. That makes it foreign to me. And therefore, if I'm makbid, now makbid doesn't mean that once in a while I take it off, and sometimes I leave it on, and I don't care. Like I don't like it, but it doesn't really bother me. That's not makbid. Makbid means no way. So if I make it my business as often as I need to do it, but I always do it, and I don't tolerate it, then that means, for me, that's a chatzitza. And before I go to the mikveh, I need to take care of it. I need to remove it. And that's why if a woman is in that situation and she has to go to the mikveh, she should try to take care of these things a couple days before, the hair, we said shaving, waxing, and so on and so forth. But if she didn't, then she should do it on the day she's going to the mikveh, because she needs to remove it because it's a chatzitza for her. She's makbid on it. So then she has to be extra careful how she removes it. It's not an inyan. If you have something that like you really want to remove, but you'll say, well, I don't want to do it on mikveh day, so I'll do it the next day. I'll make an appointment and I'll get something done, because if you're making an appointment the next day or 2 days afterwards to remove it, that means you really didn't want it, and it's a chatzitza for you. So that don't think that way. Now, we tell young girls, kalas or whatever, before they get married, just think about it. You're getting married. Till now it didn't matter. But when you get married, do you want to make this like your thing that you're makbid on it? Then you're going to have to follow. You can't be makbid on it for 6 months and then come a month later and say, oh, forget about it. I can't. This is too much for me. So think before. But sometimes a woman, it is her thing, and she has been makbid on it for a long time, and then she realizes either she's just too busy, she doesn't care anymore, life is too hectic, and I can't deal with this every month. I can't. It's not worth it anymore. Whereas when I was younger, when I was this, newly married, it meant so much to me, and at this point, you can't just stop taking care of it. You have to ask a rav. You might have to be mater neder, because something we do consistently, especially if it's a chazaka or even more, you can't just stop doing it. You're doing it as whatever. You have to ask a rav about being mater neder for it. So it applies, as I said, to the hair that grows on your body, cuticles. There's some now. If you have loose skin hanging, you have to remove it. But some people with their cuticles, it's not loose. It's just there. It's me. It's part of my skin. It's part of my nail, and it doesn't bother me. So it's not a chatzitza. But my friend, she gets her manicures and there are no cuticles and her nails are perfect, then for her it's a chatzitza. So chatzitza can be a very, being makbid can be a very individual thing. Okay, we really need to start Tevillah. Just mentioned dental work. I don't want to go into the details, but dental work, stitches is a shaila. Depends if they're the removable kind or the kind that melt, whatever, but you need to ask a shaila. Dental work, if it's a permanent filling or a permanent crown or something that's supposed to last for the rest of your life, it's permanent, so it's you. It's become you. If it's a temporary filling, something that's going to be removed, you have to ask a shaila. It depends how long it's going to be in and different things. Ask a shaila. If you can avoid doing that thing before, like it's right before mikveh, try to make your appointment for after mikveh when you're going to start this temporary work. But a lot of times you can't wait, or it doesn't work out that way, so you need to ask a shaila. This is one of the things, by the way, that's written on the checklist that was hanging in the mikveh, and it happened to me that I had done this dental work probably a week or two before, totally forgot about it. Come to the mikveh, I'm doing everything, I did everything I had to do, and then, thank God, I read the checklist, and there it said temporary filling. Red light went on. Uh-oh. I didn't ask. I don't know. And if I wouldn't have read that checklist, I would have totally, So the mikveh lady was very nice, and she got a rav, and we determined that I could go to the mikveh that night. But if I hadn't seen it and asked, and then I would have come home and realized I had the temporary filling, eventually I guess I would have asked, but I would have felt so guilty. So that's why I'm saying there's some things, you read the checklist. Well, of course I'm going to remember to take off my makeup or do things, but there's some things there that are not so obvious, which reminds me about the contact lenses, right? Nobody knows you're wearing contact lenses except you. My glasses can be seen. Jewelry on my body would be seen, but the contact lenses, so you have to remember, and it's obviously on the checklist. Your ears, I forgot to mention, right? Pierced ears. You need to clean the hole, go through the hole with the post dipped in alcohol or water to clean behind the ears. Okay, now we're ready for Baruch Hashem. We washed, we rinsed, we checked, we cut our hair, we cut our nails, and so on and so forth. We're ready for Tevillah. As I said, you don't dry yourself, but you just put on the robe and go to the mikveh. And the most important thing, again, is checking yourself, Ian, you, and then the mikveh lady before Tevillah. All right, now, what is the position for Tevillah? So there are two ways of doing Tevillah, probably everyone knows, and we're going to mention both of them, and we're going to start with the standard procedure that the whole world does. Of course, Chabad is different, has to be different, but we're going to start with a standard procedure for a few reasons. One is not everyone can do the second way, which we're going to talk about, like the fish. Not every mikveh, only the Chabad mikveh has to be built long enough for a woman to be able to stretch out. If you're using a mikveh that's not a Chabad mikveh, there's a good chance it might be just too small for you to stretch out. So you would have to know the position, the regular position. And I know there are places where the mikveh lady will not allow a woman to do it only the Chabad way. She's trained in her, whether it's Litvish or whatever it is, and her Rav, this is the way to do it, the standing up way. And she doesn't know from anything else. And she's responsible, she thinks, for your doing it the proper way. So you're going to have to do it her way. And then maybe at the end, she'll let you do it your way, whatever. But this happens. Now, should we know, I'm not going to go into it now, we don't have time, about the Chabad mikveh, bar al gabe bar from the Rebbe Rashab, and how important it is to us in Chabad to use such a mikveh. And I have beautiful stories, but it's not for now, about people who were Meiser Nefesh to use it and how they were helped. Okay, but whether you need, how much Mesiras Nefesh you need to only use that kind of mikveh, like should you postpone going to the mikveh till you can get to a Chabad mikveh, or should you go because we spoke so strongly about going on the night that you're supposed to go? Which takes precedence, and depending where you are and how far, and it's really a shaila. It's a shaila for the husband with his Rav and his Hasidic Rav and his Mashpia, and so we don't answer that now. But let's say you're using, it's perfectly permissible to use the regular kind of kosher mikveh. So what is the position? Everyone knows that you're in an upright position, right? But what do we have to do? We have to get totally under the water, every hair under our head under the water, without there being folds or things like that are not going to let the water come. So you're supposed to stand, everything has to be, whichever way you're doing, loose and relaxed. Fingers open, toes open. I just read tonight that make sure when you come into the mikveh, before you even start the Tevillah, like open your toes a little, because toes tend to stick together. So if they're sticking together when you're doing your actual Tevillah, whatever. But if you've opened them before you start the Tevillah and the water of the mikveh has touched your toes, it's a good thing. So open your fingers, open your toes, eyes lightly closed, not tightly closed, lips lightly closed, teeth not clenched together, but because the water has to, we don't open our mouth and let water go in, but the water has to be able to go in and reach all parts of our mouth. Everything loose and relaxed. You're going to spread your legs a little bit apart so the water goes there. You're going to hold your hands out. This way you lift it a little bit, right? so that the water can get under your arm, under your breast, and you're going to bend forward so that you're with your head under the water, the way we do it when we knead dough, trying not to bend your legs, your knees too much. If you have to do it just a little bit, but so that there are no folds there. And now some of you are probably, most of you are quite young, agile, and you could probably go down to the floor, touching your hands to the floor, straight, great. Some of us can't do that. You have to figure it out. But you have to get down low enough so that every hair on your head is under the water. And this can be a problem. I spoke to a couple mikveh ladies yesterday before we did the other class, something to tell the women, like the biggest problems today, or what they could do, or some tips. So one of the most important things she said is tell them that those women who have long hair, some women have very short hair, some women have a pony, but it's kind of a shortish pony, just enough to be able to keep the hair back from the face. And some women today, the shaitels are very long, and some women have very long hair. And we're not going into discussions about that as far as covering the hair. As long as it's covered properly, we're not discussing that, when you're outside. But the long hair presents a problem for the mikveh lady. It presents a problem for you, but for the mikveh lady, remember, this is her responsibility. It's her achrayus to make sure that when you go down, every hair of your head is under the water. And she was telling me that with the really long hair and the full hair, the water, unless a woman goes down like really far, the hair kind of like spreads and floats up. And it's hard for her to see if every hair is under the water. And sometimes she has to tell the lady to do it again and a third time. And the woman, not a third time from the Tevillah you're supposed to do, a third repeat of the first time, and the woman gets frustrated. It could be an issue. So I said to her, okay, so what could you tell them? Could you give a tip? So she suggested, if you have that long, full hair, take the hair, when you come in, wet your hands in the mikveh, right? Take the hair and kind of loosely just pull it together, like, don't make a pony, but just pull it together like that and bring it, sweep it to the front of you together. That way, it'll be easier that it's totally submerged. You'll be able with your hand, not to keep your hand on it, but to pull it under the water, and she'll be able to see. If it's all in one place, she could easier see if every hair is under the water. This is just a suggestion. Keep it in mind. Okay, so that's the initial position.
You stay standing upright.
What?
You stay standing upright and then you lower yourself. I don't know.
You're standing and then you're bending down, right? Arms forward and lowering yourself into the water. The water should be coming like up to about here on you. So you're lowering yourself, yes, down into the water. You might be bending your knees. They tell us try not to bend your knees, depending on how agile you are. You might have to bend them a little bit, but not a lot. You're not going to crouch down because then you're going to make a fold in your foot and the water might not get there. Okay, what is the other position? What? No, you don't have to lift your foot up. Yes, I read it in a few books. It's absolutely, you don't have to jump up.
What you're describing now is the not way, right?
Yes. Okay, we're coming to the other way. But if you're doing the standing way, you don't, the water goes under your foot. It's not a problem. You don't have to jump up to let the...
Trying to bend over so your whole body is under the water,
Right.
and reaching for your toes to the floor.
Well, you don't have to get down to your toes, but
I'm saying just under your head,
yeah,
everything.
under the water. Right. Now the other position is the way that the Tzemach Tzedek told his Rebbetzin to do it, and it's the Alter Rebbe actually writes about it, but it's to be spread out like a fish, he calls it, like a dog, which it's basically a float, but it's an underwater float. It's not the float we know that's so easy to do on top of the water. And it's not a float that's a little bit under the water. It's an underwater, like you dive under the water, it's an underwater float. When you're able to get down there and do it that way, so you don't have to worry about your hair, because if you're way down there, what you do is you're totally stretched out, right? Again, fingers open, toes open. We never clench or make tight fingers, right? And your body is all stretched out. Your arms are in front of you, so everything is lifted and open. The breasts are up, everything is open. The feet are behind you. Open your feet a little bit so that the water can get in. Everything is loose and open, and the water gets everywhere. But you have to be down there, and you have to be able to stay down there. So those people who like underwater swimming, if you're good at it, no, seriously, I used to love underwater swimming. So this position was not a problem for me. I'd rather swim under there than on top. So I found the easiest way to do that, if you're not afraid of the water, the easiest way to do that is I would hold on to the pole, sit myself down, and then just stretch out. Because going down like this and trying to stay there was harder. The gravity, it was harder. But if I got all the way down and then I just stretched out, it worked. You only have to be that way without touching the wall. If you brush the wall for a second or the rail, it's okay if you have to hold on for a second. But then you have to be able to let go, be totally free and open for a second or two. That's it. You did a kosher tevillah. And you're all the way down there, your hair is under, you're all stretched out. Now, if you can't do it, or if you're afraid of water, forget about it, right? Then you work on the other position and whatever. But if you can't do it numerous times, there's some people that do it the regular way and then they do it once because it's hard for them. They just want to be yaitz of this Indian. You figure it out, work it out with your mikveh lady, and so on. But that's the idea of that position. Now, we need to make a bracha. We do not make even a kala the first time she's doing it. We don't say shechianu. We're only going to make a bracha on the tevillah itself. What is the bracha we make? Asher kedushanim b'mitzvaysav al hatevillah, right? 2 words, al hatevillah. When are we going to say the bracha? So there are 2 opinions, and there's some brachas that we say before we do the mitzvah, before we do the action, and there's some brachas that we say after we do the action, right? Like Shabbos, we light the candles, and then we make the bracha. When we eat something, we make a bracha, and then we eat. So what are we going to do? And one of the reasons we don't make the bracha first in this case is because we said we're coming in, we need to Tevillah ourselves, wash ourselves negelvasser. So the first tevillah is getting rid of the tumah, and then we make the bracha. But we still want to follow both opinions, both ways, bracha first or bracha after. So what we do is one tevillah, then the bracha, and then another tevillah. So we've done a tevillah before the action, mitzvah before the bracha, but then we do bracha first and another tevillah. So we're incorporating both ways by doing it like that. Tevillah, bracha, tevillah. So you're going to do one kosher tevillah. You're going to go down properly, every hair, and the mikveh lady stands up on top, right? And she watches you very carefully to see that every hair is under the water and that you didn't end up holding on to something or touching something or some part of your body didn't come out. Because when we said that the mikveh water has to reach every part of your body, it has to be simultaneously at the same time. In other words, if 99% of my body was under the water, but 1% wasn't, and then I put that 1% under, no. 100% at the same time under the water. So she watches, everything is good. What does she say? Kosher. It says, when she says it down here, they say it up in Shemayim, and we merit fine children. And now, we did one tevillah, we come up for air. We have to make a bracha. Fine, we make a bracha. What's the problem? How does a person make a bracha when they're not dressed? Now, realize that the only people who make a bracha for Tevillah is a woman and a ger, right? Men go to mikveh, or boys start going to the mikveh from when they're very young. A man might go every day of his life, or whatever, except Tisha B'Av, whatever, but they never make a bracha. This is our mitzvah, and we make a bracha. So it's very, very special. But as I said, we're not dressed. So how can we take care of that? So we know that what do? As a married woman, the mikveh lady's going to give you a little tichel to cover your hair with. And then we're going to, it says it's a fine thing to bend. Now we're not doing a tevillah, we're just making the bracha. To bend a little in the water, bend your knees so the water comes up to your neck, so it's kind of like clothing you. If you didn't bend though and it only came up to here, your tevillah is still valid. You're going to look not down in the water. What we're most concerned with the lower part of the body, that's called erva. That's the real nakedness, is the lower part of the body. So we're not going to look down. We can either look up, straight, or we could just close our eyes. But we don't look down. And we're also going to create a gartel, a belt, something separating between the upper part of the body and the lower part of the body. We don't have a gartel like a man wears a gartel. That's why they wear the gartel, though, to separate the upper part and the lower part. We're going to take our hand, put it under our heart, and that's the separation between the upper part. So we're going to cover our hair, make this separation, and then look anywhere but down, up, out, close your eyes. If you want to put your other hand, cover the breast, you can. That's not mandatory. Covering the breast is not the issue. It's making the separation between the upper part of the body and the lower part of the body. So we're going to do that, and we're going to make the bracha al tevillah. We're going to try to have some kavanah when we make the bracha, meaning think about, I'm doing this mitzvah, fulfilling Hashem's ratzon, and so on and so forth. Now what happens is, though, we've been very busy. Sometimes we're very busy with the technicalities of the tevillah. Or my eyes, we're not supposed to obsess about it, but trying to keep my eyes just right, every hair under the water, whatever. And we get so caught up with the technicalities, it's hard to have kavanah when I make the bracha. Don't worry about it. I mean, you're making the bracha, you're going to think about it, you're doing everything you're doing for Hashem and to do it properly. But it's an inyan to try to think about that you're doing the mitzvah at this time. Then you're going to, you take off the tichel, you're going to go down, however you do it, and do another tevillah, and that is the obligatory part. Tevillah, bracha, tevillah, and then it's our custom to add a third tevillah, a third time going down for extra purity, for extra kedusha. This is the accepted Chabad custom now. It's become, since Rabbi Dwork or whatever, in Chabad. There are families that have minhagim, Chabad families from before. Some people do it 7 times, some people do it 9 times. I don't know, there are other customs, whatever it is. If this is the custom in your family and you're able to do it and you've been doing it and your mother did it and so on, we continue the custom. Those of us who don't have customs, or it's just too hard for some people to, because they're a little afraid of the water, it's hard for them, they do it the 3 times. Once, the bracha, and then 2 more times. It's an inyan not to talk from when you go down into the water until you are finished and come up. Now, not talking means no unnecessary talk, no social talk. How's the weather? How are you feeling? Did I do great? No, that's not necessary. No, really, because we're not supposed to talk. It's fine once you come up if you want to, talk to the mikveh lady. But if you need help, if you're not sure about something, did I touch the wall? Is something not good? Or just you have a question, you're not sure about something, you're allowed to say it. That's not called hesachadas. That's not called talk. That's talking for a specific reason that has to do with the mitzvah, and you would be allowed to do it. Now remember, if you did one of the tefillahs and the mikveh lady says you touched or your hair was above the water, you repeat that tefillah, and so it's not that you're doing more like the first one. If it wasn't good, you'll do it again, and then you'll do 2 more, right? but hopefully everything will be good. Don't be insulted if she says you didn't do it good. And just thank her for helping you do kosher tevillah. Now this is an Eis Ratzon. This time is a special time for the woman. It's a Eis Skula, a special time, just like when we bench licht, then many of us keep our eyes covered a little longer, and it's a special time to ask Hashem for things to do with Shalom Bayis and family and Parnas and all those things. This is also a special time where somehow our tefillahs go straight up. So if you want to use this time, you have the right to take an extra few minutes, or an extra minute, if there are ladies waiting or whatever, but do it when you're finished. Like you did the tefillahs, you finished all the tefillahs, the bracha, and those people who have the custom for Yehi Ratzon, some people say the Yehi Ratzon Sheyibana Beis HaMikdash. So if you didn't have a specific custom to do it in the middle of the tefillahs or whatever, it's best to wait till after you finish the 3 tefillahs or whatever you do. Then you take the tichel again and you say the Yehi Ratzon, and any private, even if you don't say the Yehi Ratzon, take the tichel again and just say anything from your heart. There are tchinas, special prayers in Yiddish. They were translated to English. The women. But it's not a Chabad custom, even though the Friedricher Rebbe talks about it, to say these special things, because again, it's Eis Ratzon. It's your time. Use it well, because whatever we ask for in this time is answered. Unless it's your specific minhag, it's better to wait till you finish.
You can decide between minhag?
No, minhag means
No, I know what I'm saying.
at the end. Tevillah, bracha, and 2 more tefillahs. You can't make your own minhag. Minhag means what? You stay in the water, yes. When you come up, we know it's an inyan that the first thing you see should be something kosher, something pure, not tameh, and therefore the mikveh lady greets you. You look at her, and it's even an inyan that she should touch you after when you come up. And when you do that, you basically take care of the inyan of seeing something kosher. However, the Rebbe speaks about it in Mem Daled. There's a sicha from the Rebbe that there's an additional inyan of that the first thing you see when you go out of the building should be something kosher. Now, what's the ikr is seeing the mikveh lady right when you come out of the water. Because if, like in Europe, there are many stories, again, we don't have time, but a woman chopped a whole nice, was a big tzaddikus, whatever, and she saw a black cat or whatever, then you have to go back and table again. So, but our seeing the mikveh lady right when we come out, we take care of that. But there is a separate further inyan for those who want to be, it's a hanhaga, the Rebbe writes, that when you come out of the building, the first thing you should be something kosher. Now that's hard for us where we live here in Gullus and so on and so forth. So what people do to take care of that is when they come out, when they're finished, and they're in the little room before you go out where you wash Negelwasser. So in most mikvahs, they have hanging there a big picture of the Rebbe. So you look at that picture, and as you go out, you turn and you look at it, or you keep it in your mind, and if you're thinking about the Rebbe or a tzaddik as you're going out, that takes care of that inyan. I know some people turn, as they go out, they turn and they kiss the mezuzah. On their way out, they kind of walk out a little backwards. Just be careful you don't fall on the step. And now, kissing the mezuzah, some people do that. So in some mikvahs near the sink, they have a little bowl with candies or something like that. So people say that if you make a bracha, when you take the candy, you make a bracha as you go out, then that takes care of the inyan of not seeing something tummy the first thing. With the candy or eating something there's also the inyan. People do that specially so that later if they feel anything in their teeth, then they say, oh, it's from the candy I ate. They don't have to worry because And some people rub their hands on something, or people do all kinds of things. They'll comb their hair and get hair all over themselves. Or put on makeup right away so that you don't have to worry, because this is very important. Just as we had the mitzvah of Ian before going to the mikveh, there is no mitzvah of Ian afterwards. You not only do you not have to check yourself afterwards, you shouldn't. However, that doesn't mean that if you come out of the mikveh or you come home and you see nail polish or you see a nail that's not cut, you could ignore it. Then you have to pay attention, call a rav, find out what you should do, and so on. But you don't go consciously looking for problems after mikveh. You're finished. That's why I say some people make a bracha, take the candy, or they do things so that they're putter from that inyan. Now, washing yourself. There are different levels. We're not supposed to take a bath or shower after mikveh, because we want the kedusha of mikveh, and we don't want to imitate it in any way. But there are different degrees in that. All poskim agree that in the mikveh building itself, a woman should not reshower. Okay, why do you need to reshower? You just, whatever. But some people might be a little allergic to the chlorine. Some people might, whatever. People have their hang-ups or whatever. So that's in the mikveh building. That night, there are others who say, some poskim say the whole night, till the next morning, you should not shower. Some say only until after relations with a husband. There are different levels. They all agree that when we say shower or bathe, it means being totally under the water at one time, like the mikveh where the water had to cover you all at one time. So if you feel the need for whatever reason, because of skin problems, or let's say you went to the mikveh early and you're still going to a hasana that night and you dance and you come home and you're sweaty, you're verschwitzt, and you want to refresh yourself, especially before being with your husband. So what we could do then, and you're going by the stricter opinion, not to shower totally, so just do, I call it a sponge shower, not putting all parts of your body under the water at one time, or don't let your hair get wet, put on a shower cap, just wash your body, and so on and so forth, so that you're not duplicating, or it shouldn't give the impression that you're imitating the idea of mikveh or duplicating it. So that's with the washing. Now we know that when you come home, you must tell your husband that you tevilled. You have to verbally tell him. You can't text. You can't hand him the receipt you get when you pay. You can't hand him the keys, because if you're handing him the keys, that means you don't have to do the harchakas anymore. You're not nida. You have to verbally tell him. But so you could, like, say it on the phone or whatever. But because it says the mouth, whatever that made you tummy now has to come and make you mutter. And we know that it's an extremely important tznius on this night. That this is something that's known only between husband and wife when you're going to the mikveh, not because we're embarrassed, not because we're doing something that's, it's because just the opposite. We are doing something that is so holy, that is so precious, that it's not for publicity. It's not for other people to know. It's between me and my husband. Just like in the Beis HaMikdash, the Kodesh HaKodashim was the room where the Shekhinah rested, but only, who was allowed in there? Only the Kohen Gadol, once a year, on Yom Kippur. It was but that was where the Aron was, with the Kruvim, where the Kruvim were the male and the female, with their arms intertwined, because this was the room of intimacy of Hashem and Bnei Yisrael. It's such a private thing. It's not open to the public. Museums are open to the public. This is not open to the public. This is between husband and wife, because it is so holy and beautiful. And that leads me to the last thing. I think, if I didn't forget anything else, just very, very briefly, I just want to mention, as I said before, we're very busy on Mikveh Day, right? It's before how we're going to get to the mikveh, the bath, the shower, when we're doing the tevillah itself, the position, the eyes, the hands, everything being proper. Are we going to feel the spirituality of tevillah? Are we going to feel new, refreshed, clean meaning pure and holy? Or are we going to get lost in all these preparations and daily mundane things? So there's 2 points here. You know what? Sometimes we're going to have a burst of spirituality and it's going to really work. And sometimes it's going to be a thing that we're doing what we're supposed to do. So that's also okay. But remember, when you were a kala, right? What did you do on the day of your chasana? You fasted, you said Tillim, you gave tzedakah. By the way, tzedakah, it's become the custom that in the mikveh, and like when you pay or in the room, there's a pushka there, and it's an inyan, the Rebbe says, to give, just like we have a pushka in our kitchen, it's an inyan to give tzedakah before doing the tevillah. But you did a lot of spiritual things before you got married, before you were with your husband the first time, mikveh and preparation, but everything was so spiritual then, right? And now you're a busy lady with children, with work, with this, and you're barely making time to go to the mikveh, and it's such a hectic day. How are you going to feel the spirituality? You can't fast. Shouldn't fast, but you can't say the whole Tillim. You can't do this. So I'm just suggesting thoughts, things that work for me. Do something. Make it your business. That, first of all, give tzedakah. Maybe that day you could make sure that you do your chitas. Maybe that day you'll be able to daven. Maybe you'll be able to say something from the davening. If you can't do your whole chitas, do something from the chitas consciously that this is for my mikveh day. As I said, give tzedakah, Tillim, but just think, I want this day to be special. And the day is special. Tevillah is special. You're going to be tahar. Did you know that when a woman goes to the mikveh every month you become tameh, and then we become tahar, right? It's called like a rebirth. We go down in the water where a person can't live or breathe, and then you come out, you're like a new person, like the baby coming out of the womb, out of the water sack. But did you know that every month when we become tahar on a higher level of kedusha than the month before? So could you imagine all those months that you're doing tevillah? Every month it's an elevation in kedusha. So the kedusha is there. The question is, am I going to feel it? Am I going to be able this month to tap into it? Am I going to be sensitive to it? Or is it going to be, makif? It's going to be hovering there, but I don't really feel it. So I'm going to try to do some things to make myself a keli to be able to feel it. Like I said, tzedakah, tillim, chista, little things. But there's one more point I want to bring out. And that is that if we want to feel kedusha, then we have to surround ourselves with kedusha. You know that what we do and think about and read about during the day, a lot of time comes out in our dreams at night, right? If we want to feel kedusha, then we have to be surrounded by kedusha. If we bring other things into our home, into our vocabulary, sometimes you hear people saying words that are so not fitting for a Jewish person, daughter, man to say, vulgar language. If we're going to look at things that are not appropriate for us, then how are we going to be able to be sensitive to the kedusha? So all the time, we know we should guard our homes this way and our families, what we bring in, what we see on the outside, where we go. But especially on mikveh day, if I want to be sensitive to the kedusha and to feel it, then I have to create an atmosphere where I will be able to feel it. So this is all little things that we could do to be able to feel, to really experience, at least on some level, each one according to their level, the beauty of Tevillah and Kedusha. And so I wish everybody easy preparations, no challenges, But Hashem is always with us, that we should at least be able to see the Hashgacha Pratis, and that everyone should have all the brachas, Bana Chayim, Zayna Ravicha, Mashiach, now the main bracha. Hatzlacha Rabbah.
Thank you. There's a whole pile of questions.
Oh, yes,
Even
sorry.
Any time to go through any of them.
Okay, I wish I forgot to mention to you if somebody could have sorted through, because sometimes
good.
they're, you take some, yes.
A reminder again, I don't see any questions there, but if next week, if there's no questions in that basket, then there's not going to be any questions during class, okay? So anyone wants to get,
paper and if it's the only one
you can put, but you just fold 4 papers there. I don't have to know it's the only one.
Can you-
If you and your husband, okay.
Can you bathe at home and do all your preparations except washing your hair? And then brush hair at the mikveh while showering? Yeah, maybe someone does want to get their hair wet in the winter when they have to go outside or something.